So you're done goofed and you need to build yourself a primitive shelter that can withstand strong winds and rain, but you don't have any cordage and no tools whatsoever. No axe, no knife. You're well and truly done goofed. Unless you build a lean-to A-frame hybrid, something which I call a leaner hut, a totally cordless construction that's as sturdy as a rock. Let's begin. First up, you'll need to find 2 trees spaced closely together. Shouldn't be too difficult. The distance between the trees will determine how wide you want your shelter to be. So if you want to keep your shelter small and snug, then find more closely spaced trees. The next step is to locate a strong living tree or sapling that's just a bit longer than the distance of your 2 chosen trees. You'll need to wedge it in between the 2 trees as tightly as possible. Everything you add to this shelter from now on will look to this tree for support. So it's got to be strong and it's got to be wedged in there like a good one. Either wedge it into the ground or wedge it into the base of the opposing tree. Just as long as it doesn't budge when you tug downwards on it, then it's good to go. Now we build the A-frame to give the structure some bilateral support. Find 2 more drawable trees and wedge them in between the main support beam and the ground. And if you can push on it hard without the entire thing collapsing, then it's good to go. Give yourself a pat on the back for your engineering skills. Test the structure as a whole by pulling on the main support beam to and fro. If it holds up, then you've got a solid construction. Just make sure each pole is rammed in hard like a one-night stand. Now the framework's nearly done, we just need to build the door. So find 2 sticks of the same width and length. And if they have the same curvature, then that's just an aesthetic bonus. Ram them in and make yourself a nice little entrance and exit, adding a strong stick at the back to keep it in place for the time being. Now we need to fill the voids, and that's the easy part. Lay deadfall of the appropriate length at a slight incline against the framework, starting from the sides of your door and working your way backwards. The reason we lay the logs at an angle as opposed to upright is so each individual piece of deadfall grants the adjacent piece of deadfall more of a hold on both the ground and the framework. So if a strong gale wants to blow one log off your shelter, it's going to have to blow with enough force to budge the whole lot. Not at all likely unless we're talking 90-mile-per-hour gusts, in which case you'll need to up your game and build a tornado shelter, which I'll cover in the coming weeks. Now we can begin to make this house a home by making it water resistant and insulating it. You may be familiar with the term debris hut, a shelter that's closed off with cascading layers of debris from the forest floor, leaves, twigs, pine needles, bark, all things which can be scraped into a big pile and stacked against the walls. As long as you're not afraid of breaking a nail, then this will take about 8 minutes. Easy peasy. The debris will be enough to keep the rain out, but to further insulate it and add more water resistance, and just to make it look a bit more inviting for the crackhaws, you can add a layer of evergreen boughs. Overall, this shelter took me 35 minutes to build, including smoke breaks and fiddling about with the camera. The reason it was such a swift construction is because I invested some time beforehand to locate a patch of woodland that was host to an abundance of deadfall. It's all about that location. And there you go, you've got yourself a nice little man cave. Incredibly water resistant if you stack the debris all over it, and well insulated and further water resistant due to the conifer boughs. And to boot, there's plenty of room to stash your dead hookers, snug as a bug. Lay down some conifer boughs on the inside to give yourself some padding and insulation, or if you've made a raised bed, then wallow in the delight of the prospect of having a decent night's sleep in a natural shelter that will withstand the elements. Add a nice little fire in front of the door and it's GG well played. Make your house a home by adding a nice little fire reflector wall out in front. And if you're feeling particularly adventurous, a nice long fire to bombard you with heat. And just to demonstrate how structurally sound this shelter is, done. Easy peasy.